Hi, everyone, and welcome to Beyond the Ring, the importance of evaluation and selection skills. Thank you for taking the time to join us here in this session. We are really excited to have three panelists with us today, so I'll go ahead and let them introduce themselves. Dr. O'Quinn, if you want to get started.
Yeah, my name is Dr. Travis O'Quinn. I'm an associate professor at Kansas State University in the Department of Animal and Food Science. I'm also a member of the American Meat Science Association and serve as the meat judging coach at Kansas State.
Dr. Henley?
Hi, my name is Parker Henley. I'm an assistant professor at Oklahoma State University, where I coach the livestock judging team, as well as I serve as the president of the National Collegiate Livestock Coaches Association.
Thank you, Dr. Henley. We're excited to have you here. And Dr. Pipkin?
Hi, John Pipkin. I'm a Regents Professor of Animal Science at West Texas A&M University, and I currently serve as the president of the National Horse Judging Team Coaches Association.
Great. Well, we are excited to have each of you here today from various places across the country. So, Dr. Pipkin, why don't you get us started and tell us a little bit about the industry certification that NHJTCA offers?
Sure, Kim. Well, the Equine Management and Evaluation Certification was really intended to be put together to help individuals earn a certification that would hopefully validate their knowledge and skills that would help them provide entry into the horse industry and various careers. And that could range anything from evaluation types of opportunities to management and production. And overall, just simply put, it was intended to be a base of fundamental knowledge and skills that then students and individuals can gain certification on that would verify their knowledge and their capabilities.
Great. Dr. Henley, do you want to tell us a little bit about your certification?
Yes, the Principles of Livestock Selection and Evaluation certification verifies and individuals have acquired specialized skills to excel in the livestock industry. Especially, we think that the individuals with this certification are more qualified and prepared to work in the livestock industry, and offering them more value to potential employers and to the industry as a whole.
Great. And Dr. Quinn, AMSA actually has 3 industry certifications, so would just briefly tell us about those.
Yeah, no problem. The American Meat Science Association has 3 different certifications, one of which is a culinary-based certification, which gives individuals going into food service and the restaurant business a little bit of background about meat selection and cookery methods for various meat cuts. The second certification is a food safety type certification, which really helps members of all aspects of the meat industry gain valuable knowledge based on food safety, proper handling techniques in order to prevent foodborne illness. And then the third certification is the meat evaluation certification, which goes into great detail to help individuals who are going into production and meat processing environments learn of differences of value of cuts and how to really determine which of those cuts is the most valuable and most profitable for their business.
Great. So as our viewers have gathered, I'm sure each of these professors and coaches are renowned in their field for their evaluation and selection skills. And so that's why we brought them here today, is to specifically speak to why the evaluation and selection skills that students are learning in high school, why those are important throughout their careers in the industry. So Parker, if you just want to get us started, why do you believe that evaluation and selection skills are so important in the livestock industry?
Yeah, absolutely. Just basically speaking, some of the skills that are developed from evaluation, including decision making and other just basic life skills, are important, as well as just understanding different breed identifications, anatomy of animals, EPDs that are all provided in the Principles of Livestock Selection and Evaluation certification that can really improve a learner's ability to excel in the industry.
Great. Travis, you also use those evaluation and selection skills, but in a different segment of the ag industry. How do you feel that how do those skills translate across to your field, but how are they different?
I think that's a really good question. For us, from a meat industry standpoint, evaluation skills are wide ranging in terms of students' ability to assess both carcasses and cuts for value, to be able to determine how we can actually balance differences in quality versus trimness and muscling, to really help the employers be able to segregate carcasses and cuts based on that. Another thing that's really critical for us is the critical thinking skills that students gain through evaluation, the ability to be confronted with complex, challenging problems, and for them to be able to work through that and demonstrate that they know how to really think through such complex problems and come up with solutions.
Great. So Dr. Pipkin, what would you say to the importance of evaluation and selection skills in the equine industry specifically?
Well, Kim, they're really truly foundational in many respects, and are going to open doors literally as entrees into many, many aspects of the horse industry. And being able to identify both anatomically, just starting with that, and the physiology that goes along with it, and just those real key foundational evaluation skills are going to really provide opportunities for individuals, and is going to prove their merit and their qualifications to potential employers. So there are many, many aspects of the horse industry that it's going to be extremely beneficial to those individuals to have that certification.
Great. So each of you are judging coaches within your respective fields. So you're working with youth across the country, both in high school and then when they come to you in your college programs. What are some ways that young people can be developing these skills while they're still in high school? Dr. O'Quinn, if you want to get us started.
I think there's a lot of good ways for students in high school and individuals of all ages to really gain good practical evaluation skills. Most commonly, if we're talking about for us, we host a number of contests that are youth contests. Nothing's better than students actually getting in and being able to evaluate products. Although that's a limiting factor for many individuals, the ability to actually get into plants, to be able to look at differences in carcass value. So a lot of the training materials that ICEV hosts actually do a very good job of taking students to have the ability to see actual pictures and videos of those cuts, to be able to really hone in those evaluation skills that we go through in the certification.
Dr. Pipkin, when you're speaking with students, with teachers, with parents, what advice do you give them to train and their young people in these skills?
Well, to provide them all the opportunities they can, as often as they can, and as much as they can. And just to go along with what Travis and Parker both have indicated, is that really the more opportunities that individuals can get to practice those knowledge-based skills and develop those knowledge-based skills is going to really enhance their opportunities as they go, whether it's into college or even enter directly into the respective industries. And I think one of the real benefits of having access to these ICEV products on that platform, and then have the information that's brought to the table by the various professional groups that are reflected here, is that coaches and individuals that are training themselves can feel very comfortable and very confident that it's going to be the highest quality and reviewed type of information that they can feel very comfortable and confident about, that it's going to be that will allow them to be able to build upon as they continue to develop themselves professionally as well.
Great. And Parker, what do you say when you're talking to young people? Maybe they're coming to judging camps. Maybe you're working with them at career development events. How do you encourage maybe freshmen or sophomore students who are just getting into judging? How do you encourage them to stay with it and to keep developing their skills?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, we obviously start with outlining the real benefits and the ways that livestock judging can change a person's life through all the things that we've all said previously: time management, decision making skills, networking, all these different things. We outline as the real benefits of being a part of a judging program. But we also tell them that you know, the real benefits, you know, are things in life that are challenging, and it'll be challenging, it'll be hard, but it'll be the most rewarding thing as well. And we encourage them to continue to push themselves and practice on their own and develop those skills.
So all of you have mentioned the development of soft skills, the development of critical thinking, working under pressure, decision making. So could you speak to the development of those skills and how judging programs and other types of events, how these develop those skills? Dr. Pipkin, if you want to get us started off.
Well, it's just fundamental and inherent with those activities, the fact that individuals are provided some foundational information to start with, and then it's the application opportunities that you really have through whether it's these particular kind of materials are being used to further develop the application of that knowledge. And then that provides the opportunity then, I think, for them to go forth after that to where they can develop their eyes, so to speak, if it's in a visual evaluation type of a process. But the other part of that is they're provided information that they have to process. They have to be able to think through that critically and evaluate that, and then come to some type of a decision. And hopefully that decision is based upon some kind of a logical, well thought out, critically thought out type of a process. And then in most of our situations, then they're going to need, or at least have the chance to be able to communicate how it is they went about making that decision and what it was they considered in coming to some of those kinds of conclusions. So those are tremendously valuable skills that will take them forward professionally in many, many ways. And that I would take that even beyond the specific industry that we're talking about, each of ourselves.
Yeah, definitely. I know personally, as a former livestock judger, that the skills that I learned when I was judging have translated into my career now. So, Dr. Henley, what would you say about the soft skills that you developed while you were a youth, and how have those translated into your career in academia?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, one of there's many things that we could pick out, and just to pinpoint, you know, one skill that's learned from livestock judging is challenging, but I'll just speak to one of them that I think is sometimes hard to find in today's world, and that's the ability to work well and get along with the team, or work in a team atmosphere. You know, we encourage or we require these students to get into a 15-passenger van and travel around for 12 months at a time, and that team bonding and development and is essential to a team success. And a lot of times that's hard to come by, and so those things. Getting along with other teammates in times when it's maybe not the easiest, were skills that I developed riding around in that 15-passenger van.
Yeah, for sure. Dr. Quinn, I know that you work with youth, high school students, and many of them end up coming to judge in your program at Kansas State. What do you see from maybe the underclassmen that you encounter when they're in high school? What does their growth and development of their soft skills look like by the time that they reach your program?
That's a great question. I think that there's probably a number of examples of students that I can think of that I knew from the time that they first started with a meat judging program as freshmen and sophomores in high school, and to see the growth that they have is truly remarkable. You know, one of those things, you have really underclassmen from a high school level that or even many times younger than that, that they don't really have a lot of confidence. They're kind of stumbling around, not knowing exactly what they're supposed to be doing. But the more that they do this and the more practice they get, the more self-confidence they get, the more confidence they have just in general discussing why they made the decisions they did to come up with placings. And all of our events have some level of communication, whether that's an oral reason component or a written reasons component. And to see the progression that students can make in defending their decisions is truly remarkable. So by the time we get many of those students that have been participating for 4, 5, 6 years in meat judging before they get to Kansas State, those students are pretty well rounded when they get here. They have a really good foundational base in terms of everything that we're going to ask them to do as part of a collegiate team. And it's, for many of those students start out on the far opposite end of the spectrum.
That's awesome to see that throughout their years. I'm kind of switching veins here a little bit. Dr. Pipkin, would you speak to why having an industry certification is important in the equine industry, and how having specifically the NHJTCA certification can help someone find employment within the horse world?
Well, I think any kind of a credential is important these days. The three panelists here are associated with universities, and so we're about trying to help students gain some kind of a certification, in most cases, hopefully complete a degree. And there are many other kinds of certifications that are going to open doors and are going to indicate that these individuals are in fact qualified in whatever area that they have hopefully gained that knowledge and training, and then have since demonstrated that in turn is going to open doors for them into areas that, or maybe it's specific within these individual industries. Yet I think that you also find that because of the inherent skills that are gained along the way, that it's going to provide other opportunities as well. So I don't think it's just necessarily a starting point in an entry into a specific industry, but that it also provides the background and the foundation for individuals to be able to advance. A lot to do with the specific kinds of skills that they are going to have developed in acquiring the certification, and that is going to reflect in itself. So again, I think that it can be widely valuable, though specific maybe in getting your foot in the door, so to speak, but then beyond that, just in advancing as well.
Yeah, for sure. Dr. Henley, what do you hope that employers will see and will understand when they see that a candidate has earned the NCLCA industry certification?
Yeah, for sure. I think the main thing is that most employers like to see is that that learner is committed to educating themselves and improving themselves. And, that is the baseline, I guess, that sets the stage for their ability to take in information and grow as a learner in that organization or for that employer.
Yeah, of course. And Dr. Quinn, AMSA has 3 different industry certifications. And the meat and food industry is a very vast industry itself, which is represented by the fact that AMSA has 3 different industry certifications. So why is it important that someone in your industry earn an industry certification?
Absolutely. I think that one of the things you touched on is how wide and breadth the meat industry actually is. There's a lot of different types of jobs, and each of these certifications addresses a different aspect of different careers that students or individuals may end up pursuing as they go on or advance within their careers. Everything from people working in restaurants to students going on, or individuals in grocery and retail chains can be benefited from these types of certifications. It really helps the employer know that these students have an in-depth knowledge of these different topics, and it allows for them to go in and really have a leg up and understand that this is an individual who you can trust with things, and that they have a level of understanding that other individuals without such certifications just don't have, to be able to help those individuals really get a head start.
Of course. So I have one final question. each of you are in a unique position. Not only are you members of renowned associations within your field, but you're also college professors. And many times as a certification testing platform, we receive the question, why is it important for an individual to have a certification if they plan to go to college? And so, Dr. Henley, if you could maybe get us started, why is an industry certification equally valuable to someone who is pursuing higher education or someone who is planning to enter the workforce?
Yeah, for sure. Dr. Pipkin kind of touched on this, I guess. It'd be a great answer in that, any kind of certification or level of education is great, and it's not just the highest one you achieve. And so trying to get or trying to become as educated as possible and through certifications is an outstanding idea. It can drastically improve your career.
Yeah, of course. Dr. Pipkin, what would you say to someone who was questioning the need for an industry certification as well as a college degree?
Well, just to add on to Dr. Henley's comments there, I think that it's going to provide an advantage, potentially anyway, for a student as they would go into college. So just that in itself is going to help them, frankly, just in having more foundational knowledge than maybe a lot of their peers. But outside the university setting, there's going to be many industry-related opportunities that it's going to help them open those doors and going to provide this certification and credential that that they would have before maybe they've earned any kind of other types of certifications, or in this case, a college degree. So there's a lot of things along the way, a lot of opportunities that individuals can take advantage of, that in this case, maybe it's a college student can take advantage of and start gaining more experience. And it's because of this credential that they're going to have in hand as they are working perhaps towards completing a college degree that's going to provide those opportunities and allow them to get them.
Yeah, of course. Dr. Quinn, I once had someone in the meat industry tell me that they wish they would have been able to take the certification while they were in college, purely because of the AMSA Food Safety and Science certification and the focus that it puts on HACCP. Do you want to speak to maybe the rigor of the AMSA certifications and how it complements a college degree?
Yeah, absolutely. As a college professor, I can tell you that when we talk about meat science courses specifically, there's only so many different courses that any of our institutions can offer. And not only that, there's only so many different topics that can get covered within those courses. And so having, for example, as you pointed out, the food science and safety certification that does spend a lot of time focused on the HACCP components. HACCP is universally accepted in all federally inspected meat plants across the United States. And many individuals within that career path end up having to go through some type of HACCP certification along the way. So being able to get a leg up and have some information about HACCP and food safety and all the regulations that go into that is, for many students going through college, they just don't have the opportunity to take a class focused on that. And so this type of certification goes a long way to being able to help build those career preparedness that otherwise maybe some students don't have the opportunity to take in their normal coursework as part of their degree program.
Yeah, of course. Well, that is all the time we have, and coincidentally, all the questions I have. So is there anything else that each of you would like to add before we sign off? All right, well, thank you everyone for joining us today. We will have a Q&A session following this workshop, and you can find the link to the Q&A below. Thank you for joining us.